Hello, everyone. Pam DuBois, Dream Real Estate TV. Today, I am so super excited, grateful to have with me Sir John Shin. He is actually started 26 different companies, 6 different charities, author of the How Rich Asians Think, the book, and also movie producer, Think and Grow Rich, right? I love, and I want to hear more about the movie. So, John, thank you so much again for being with us today. And if you could first just tell us a little bit about Sir John and how you're an entrepreneur, how you got started being an entrepreneur.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how exactly or when I decided to become an entrepreneur, because I didn't grow up that way. I wasn't like starting in kindergarten. They put me in some program where I was a special kid learning how to be an entrepreneur. I grew up in a very traditional family, Pam. Mom, dad immigrated to this country like many people in the United States. We came from a country called Korea, and to be more specific, South Korea. And if things were incredible in South Korea, I'm sure they probably wouldn't have left the country. But most people, whether you're in Europe or Asia or the Middle East or wherever you come from, we come to America because it's the land of free enterprise. It's the land of the free. We don't see too many people wanting to fight and go to Cuba, right? Or North Korea, right? I mean, these are communist countries. There's no opportunities. And so mom and dad came to America seeking and looking for that American dream. This was the land of the free. And so they bought a ticket, came to America, landed at LAX International Airport, and they went down the street. And the first thing they saw, which said rent, they got a small little apartment. And that's where I grew up in East LA. Who would have thought, that we would have, of all the, we didn't know there's this whole Beverly Hills or Carlsbad, Santa Barbara. We ended up in East LA. And so my parents went and got not one, but 2 jobs trying to make ends meet. And then they were very traditional Asian parents, which means that you need to go to college, get a degree, and go find yourself an incredible job helping people, a profession like a doctor,
Yeah.
right? Or a lawyer helping people. And that's the American dream. And so my sister ended up becoming the doctor. I ended up becoming the lawyer. But I think when my parents were saying doctor, I think they were referring to a medical doctor. And my sister became a PhD doctor, which is equally just as, it's a lot of academics. And so my sister started at the bottom as a teacher and worked her way all the way up. And now she's the first female and the first Asian woman to become a dean at Pepperdine University. Wow. And so here's a school that Malibu, it's a beautiful campus, and never had a female dean, never had an Asian woman as a dean, And I ended up going to law school. I hated every single moment of it, wondering why I'm doing this. I just said I'm doing it for my parents. I want them to feel that when they came to this country, that their purpose was to give their kids an education. So I did all that for them. But I was pretty miserable. Like, I mean, I dreaded, Pam, every day waking up. I was that guy who said, thank God it's Friday. That I was that guy thinking that Saturday and Sunday would be my 2 days of off. I get 2 days off for myself. And the job that I had didn't really even allow that. I was working on weekends just to prepare for different cases or trial on Monday morning. And so, I always think that things happen for a reason. Yeah. Just you and me meeting and connecting, how we met, there's a purpose behind that. Being on your program here today, there's a purpose behind that. And when I went to law school, I realized that maybe my purpose wasn't so much being in the legal profession, but it's where I met my wife. Yeah. So we sat down as we're about to get married and started planning out our lives. I just wanted to make sure that here's a lady, a woman that can share some similar, visions and dreams as I had. And so I sat down and I said, listen, I know, I asked you to marry. You said yes, thank God. You know, our wedding's going to be coming up, but I just want to make sure that we're both on the same page. And this is what I want. And is this what you want? Or is it what do you want? Let's talk about that. So we decided that we would go and buy some books, and we went to the bookstore and we bought a book, not one, but many. And, you know, one of the books that we picked up was a book called Think and Grow Rich. And so we bought that book, we came home, and we decided, we had all these books on the table. We're like, which one should we read? You know, which one should we start with? And the title, Think and Grow Rich, just really popped out at us. And so we took the book, we opened it up, started reading it. And what was really interesting is that I read chapter 1, she read chapter 1, but we both had a different takeaway from chapter 1. But as we continued to finish the book, you know, Napoleon Hill says, you know, when most people say think and grow rich, most people equate the word rich with money or finance, you know, but what Napoleon Hill talks about is to be rich in all areas of your life. Right. And so today, for me, what all areas of your life is number one, I'm going to share the 5 F's, you know, and it's interesting how many people today, Pam, I tour and I speak on stage, and the language people have, you know, when I was growing up, you know, you're not supposed to use profanity. It was a bad thing, you know, it was, you know, there's other words you can use. And today, a lot of people use the F word, you know, pretty frequently on social media and podcast, even television. In the old days, you know, if you use the F word, you know, you could be fined and there's sanctions and all that. But I mean, movies, TVs, everywhere, speakers, like motivational speakers are on stage, you know, saying the F word. Every other word is an F word. Well, I've got some F words too. Okay. And it's not what most people say, but my F words are, number 1 is faith. Okay. And so that I tell people to be rich in your faith. Number 2 is your family. That's a good F word, right? You know, number 3 is your fitness. Number 4 is your finance. And number 5 is having fun. And I can sit here all day and talk about other F words that I think are much more appropriate to talk about than the other kind of F words that people use. But those are 5 really important F words that I like to use every day. And so what we did, Arlene and I, my wife, is we broke down our business plan or our game plan based on those 5 F's, you know? And I was like, well, you know, what are we gonna do spiritually, you know, with our faith? You know, what do you think about going to church? You know, what do you think about having people to come over and have Bible studies or whatever it is? You know, what do we want to do with our fitness? You know, how are we going to eat? How are we going to exercise? You know, things like that. And so we broke it down that way. And so obviously now we come down to the part where we talk about our finance. And I say, well, how much money would you like to make? And so she says, that's a good question. I don't know. And I said, well, we got to figure out exactly what it is that we want. And if you go to Think and Grow Rich, and I'm not sure which version, but chapter 1, if you get the original book, it's page 36. But if you go into the chapter, it's actually what Napoleon Hill talks about is how to turn your desires into gold. You know, taking your burning desires, and how do you turn that into gold? And so one of the things that he talks about is how to turn your desires into gold is this. If I'll give you an example before I tell you what it is if I gave you, Pam, let's say an invisible ball, and I had in front of you a target, okay, like a bullseye. Now I got this target and I said, Pam, I want you to take this ball and I want you to throw it at my target, and I'm going to give you a choice. I can have the target still, or I can have it moving back and forth. What would you choose to have? Still or moving back and forth?
I would say still.
Yeah, you would say still, exactly. Because, and why would people say that? Why would you say that?
Because you're shooting at a target that's just sitting there as opposed to something that's moving back and forth, right?
It's a lot easier to hit, isn't it?
Yeah,
Right.
it's a lot
And
easier.
so when I ask people, well, how much money do you want to make? Oftentimes I hear people say a lot.
Yeah. It's
Okay. And then I'll say, and how soon would you like to make that? And they say, as soon as possible. It's the number one answer I get across the board. So here's what happens when I ask somebody how much money you want to make and you say a lot, here's your target.
right.
Okay. And if I say by when, and you say as soon as possible, here's your target. Now, good luck trying to hit your target. It's very difficult to hit it. And so when Arlene and I sat down and we put our plan together, the first thing we said was it would be nice if we could have $200,000. So it was like 100,000 for her and 100,000 for me. Now that was back in 1994. I mean, that's still okay today, you know, but in 1994, 200,000, like, whoa, you're making 200 grand. It was a big deal.
Yeah.
And so then we broke it down even further and say, well, if we break $200,000 down over 12 months, okay, what are our expenses going to look like? And that's how we broke it down. And then we started realizing that we don't even really need $200,000 for the things that we actually wanted at that time. And then we got married and we started, doing our thing. And we decided that we would start a business in the financial service industry. And the reason we went in there is because she and I had no idea how money worked. Like we had no idea. We're educated, we have a college degree, but we still didn't know how money worked. And so our parents didn't teach us about that. And so then I thought to myself, I was reading some books and it basically said, well, if you make a lot of money, you have to pay taxes. Okay. And I was like, okay, what are those taxes? And then, when I was looking at the tax rate at the time, by the time you pay the federal government and then you pay your state government and then you pay your local, right, and city and municipal taxes, you're paying 40 to 50% of all your earnings.
Right.
And then I thought to myself, wow, if I can somehow mitigate and save some of that 40 to 50%, then I would be able to increase my profit margins even more so. And so that's when I realized like we are financial dummies and we got to learn how to be more financially savvy. And that's what we started. And then I started asking other people about money, and other people did not know anything about money. And then I thought, wow, we're not the only ones that are financial dummies. Everybody else is financially dumb too. And so we're like, that's what we're going to do. And that's how we started our financial service business. And as soon as we sat down, we, just like if you said, if I said, Pamela, where do you live? I'd love to come by and swing by your house. You give me an address. I wouldn't know how to get there. So I would take your address and put it into my navigation system and follow my GPS. So I like to teach people, Pamela, using acronyms, if you will, right? And so one of the acronyms of GPS, the letter G, and I really encourage everybody to write this down, okay? Because I think it's really going to help people with where they want to go, right? So the first letter G stands for what are your goals? And the thing is, and I mean, it seems so basic, but Pamela, when I talk to people, most people don't even know what their goals are. Right. Just like how much money do you want to make? A lot. Well, what's a lot? I mean, we don't know what a lot is. Some people, a lot's 10 million, and for others, a lot's 100,000. So what does it mean by a lot? So this is why I tell people write down your goals in those 5 F's that we just talked about. Then the letter P is what are your plans? You got to have a plan. Okay. And like right now, we're trying to add some additional real estate onto the back of our property. And, a lot of people refer to those as ADUs, right? Mm-hmm. And so we're trying to build and maybe have a couple more living spaces, like, places for people to sleep, some additional bathrooms, a little, backyard, pool house area. So we want to do that. So every time I have a contractor come by, every contractor said, do you have any plans? Like, what are your plans? I'm like, I just want you to go like 1,800 square foot this way. I want you to be 26 feet tall, And I was like, that's great. But what's the plan? Do you have an architect? I'm like, oh no, I don't have an architect. And so then I realized that I have to go hire an architect to help me, to put my plans together.
Right.
Right.
Yes.
And so here's what I tell people is that your architect is you. Your architect is what you believe, and that's the mindset that you were talking about earlier. And when we tell people, like, what does it mean to have a mindset? Well, the word mindset was actually first used in 1930s. In the 1930s, it was, when they say mindset, they're talking about the habits of your mind, right? Your former, previous, maybe experiences.
Yeah.
And so that is your mindset. And then your mindset are all these thoughts and beliefs that have been programmed into your mind by previous experiences. So for most people, that mindset was programmed by our mom and dad or grandparents or a coach who said, go to college, kid, go to college. And we've been taught that not just here in the United States, but all over the world.
Right.
You know, I go to Europe, I go wherever, you know, I go to England, I go to the Middle East, I go to Asia. Everybody says, go to college, get a degree. And so that was the mindset that was programmed into our head. Now, what's interesting is that that has shifted tremendously.
Yeah.
Okay. And where that shift comes from is suddenly people are now using some common sense. So for instance, when I was in high school, I got myself a job. I had a little tiny Volkswagen Bug, and a friend of mine called me, told me, he's like, I saw him at school, and he's like, I go, what are you doing? He says, I work at Domino's Pizza. And I'm like, what, Domino's Pizza? And he goes, yeah. So you put these little signs on the top of your car, you drive around, and I go, really? Like, why did you want to work there? And he goes, hey, I get tips, I get cash and all that. Every night I come home with cash. You know, they're looking for drivers too. You should do it. And I was like, huh, okay. So I got a job there, you know, just to see what it was like. And then I started driving my little Volkswagen into these gated communities, right? So I would pull up, there's a security guard, right? There's a big 2 gates open up, like I'm going to a castle. And I come into this community, and I kid you not, I looked at these homes like, are these hotels or are these homes? I mean, they were just so big. And the first thing I said to myself was, I wonder what these people do.
Right.
You know, like what do these people do to live in a community like this? You know, are they all movie stars? You know, are they all NBA and basketball, you know, football players, you know? And so I started driving it around, and guess what I did? I sold myself the dream.
Yes. Yes.
You see what I'm saying? Like you know, when I was in high school, I started to say, this is how some people live. This is how the rich people live. And so I didn't have cell phones back then. And I remember, you know, carrying a camera in my car. And I remember when I drove to these places to to deliver the pizza, I take a picture, and I take a picture of it on my camera to come home and tell myself that one day I'm going to live in a house like this.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Yes.
is that right? I mean, you know, I started, so that's where it started. Like, I'm going to live like this,
Mhm.
you know, and I started seeing people with these nice cars, and, you know, I was like, oh, I'm going to live in one of those. I'm going to have one of these cars, you know, and
Yeah.
stuff like that. And then I started to tell myself, as I started meeting different people, I said, what do you do? You know, I always ask people, what do you do? What do you do? I was always curious.
Yeah.
And when I found out that most people who were doing well had a business, I'm thinking to myself, I gotta own a business,
Yeah.
right? I mean, you know, you don't see too many people have jobs living in these kind of communities, right? Unless you're a special, talented, gifted person with where you're an NBA basketball player or an NFL player. And so that's what I did, is I started telling myself, I got to have a business. And so I started to shift that mindset.
Yeah.
And then a lot of people, you know, they got to learn. It's very difficult for them to learn, because then they go to a job, they stay there, and they hate what they do, Pamela, right? They can't stand it. Like, they can't even get up to go to work every single day. In fact, they even park their car and they reverse their car in now. You know what I mean? When they're parking lots, you know, so they can get the hell out of that place so fast, right? And so people don't love what they do. And then they're saying at their job, you know, a lot of people say to themselves, as you and I are having this conversation, there are people at a job right now saying to themselves, there has to be a better way to make a living. There has to be, right? And so, and then what really frustrates me is how many people leave that job now because they can't stand their boss. They can't stand what the company does. They don't like the product. They don't even like their coworkers. And then what do? They go and submit their resume to another place to go and put themselves in the same place again.
Yeah.
Right. And so now finally with social media,
Yeah.
now everybody's coming out and saying, hey, look at the way I live, right? Look at
Yeah.
my lifestyle. And I'm doing this because I now have a business, because I'm an entrepreneur or whatever, solopreneur. But now when you go and start your own business, okay,
Yeah.
it's that fear of the unknown because you've never done it before, right? It's like, oh my God, this is so different. And
Yeah.
anything you do different is going to be what? Awkward.
Yeah.
Okay, first day you go to a new school, it's a little awkward. When you're a kid, you're like scared, like, am I gonna have any friends? Right. And then there's that your butterflies in your stomach.
Right.
The first day you might go to a new church or a temple or whatever, you get those, but I don't know anybody there. You
Yeah.
even get scared today when you go to a party, right? And you're like, who's going to be there? Am I going to know anyone? And when
Right.
you first arrive, you ring the doorbell, you come into the house,
Yeah.
and you're kind of like, oh my God, do I know anybody? Okay, I'm going to be a loner at this party. I don't have any friends here. And then, of course, the host of the party comes and is like, hey, go get some food. And then what do? Everybody loves standing around the food,
Yeah.
and they keep on feeding their face, because if you do that, you don't have to talk to anybody.
Right.
Right. And then you look like you're busy, so you don't have to talk to anyone. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so here's what I tell people is, number one, follow that GPS, set up your goals,
Yeah.
have a plan, get an architect. And who's the architect? You're the architect. And the letter S is to put it into your schedule. Make it happen now and shift that mindset. And so I tell people, if you're going to shift your mindset, that, Napoleon Hill talks about having that burning desire.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about, right?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. And one of the things you actually pointed out was the dream. Like you were driving around these neighborhoods with these houses with the big gates, and it's like, you're looking at these houses, right? And that's where the dream came in. You've got to have that dream. If you don't have that dream, you don't have that why. But you know, seeing it and wanting it and knowing that you can actually have it,
Yeah.
right?
And here's the thing is, I tell people, if you're going to dream big. Does that make sense? Right. I mean, dream so big, they say, that you scare the crap out of people. You know what I mean? And even scare yourself that you're dreaming that big. Dr. Martin Luther King said, and we just celebrated his holiday last week, right?
Yeah.
Monday. And what Dr. Martin Luther King said, he said that most people die at the age of 25, but we just don't bury them until they're 85.
Yeah. Yeah. They
Right,
die.
because most people have given up on their dreams. They're like, no way, that's not going to happen to me. Are you kidding me? Why do you even want to dream that big when it's not going to happen to you or for you?
Yeah.
So that's why I tell everybody, like, dream so big that it scares the crap out of you.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And it's so important, like you were talking about earlier, about mindset, right? Because mindset is instilled in us when we were little, growing up with our parents. Oh, money is the root of all evil, and don't dream so big, because you never will be able to, get something. Start off small, right?
Yeah.
All these things are in our mind and was ingrained in us as kids. And so as we get older, that's why a lot of people, I think, they've lost their dreams. As kids, we actually, as babies, we're so brave. We do everything, we try everything, we're not afraid of anything. And then as we get older, we're afraid to dream get big. I was with my grandkids this weekend, and they're all under 9, and it's funny because they were dressing up in their princess dresses and everything like that, and just enjoying themselves. And they were just flaunting it all over the place. They were just like in this world, in this dream world, right? They were little princesses, and we're like that. And as we get older, we lose that dream. So tell us, what do you think what do you think that's one thing that people should do to keep their dream alive?
Well, the first thing I tell people to do is be creative with it. You know,
Yeah.
one of the things that Arlene and I did is, okay, so she drove a little tiny Nissan,
Mhm.
right, as a car, and there's different kinds of dreams, right? There's materialistic dreams. Does that
Right.
make sense?
Yes.
Because when we say dreams, like, what does that mean? Well, there's a variety of different dreams. One is a romantic dream, right? And that's someone that you would fall in love with, like, oh my God, if he was my husband or she was my wife. So you can have those kinds of dreams. Does that make sense? You
Right.
could have some idealistic dreams where you're going to become like, the next, Dalai Lama, right? Or, Mother Teresa, where you just want to go out there and help everyone around the world and bring world peace to everyone. So you
Right.
can have that kind of a dream, right? You could have some sort of a destination dream where you're going to be in some tropical island, right?
Right.
Or some beautiful place that you wanted to be, somewhere in the, what is that place? Uh, um, I forget what it is. It's a friend of mine was just there and I forgot what it is, but it's a beautiful tropical island like Tahiti. But then there's also the material dreams where you can have nice cars and homes and all that kind of stuff, right? So
Yeah.
I tell people that there's a variety of different types of dreams, but you got to dream it all, okay? And so one of the things that, one of our materialistic dreams for Arlene and I was to go and have a nice car because she had a Nissan, I had a Volkswagen. And so we went to the dealership and we started looking at this cars in the showroom. We're like, oh my gosh. When they open up the door and you smell the car, like that brand new leather smell,
Yeah.
it's like, wow, like, do people really, they get to afford a car like this? I mean, it was like mind blowing.
Yeah.
And then the thing is, the guy said, sir, would you like to test drive it? And I'm like, yeah, and then, I was like, then as soon as they pulled it out of the showroom and they're doing all this so I can test drive it. And then guess what? I drove it and I drank the Kool-Aid. Like I wanted that car now. Right. And then he goes, you ready to buy it today? And I look at Arlene and I'm like, well, yeah, but I don't know if we can really afford it, to be honest with you. And he goes, well, what if I could make it affordable for you? And I'm like, what do you mean? And he goes, what do you think you can afford on a monthly basis? I said, I don't know. And he goes, look, come over here, kid, have a seat. And we had a little seat at the table. He went and got us some coffee and some chocolate chip cookies. I'm like, wow, these guys are so nice. They're like giving us, dessert and coffee, and I drink it, ate their cookies. And he says, hey, this car monthly, my finance manager can do it for $500 a month. And I thought to myself, $500 a month? I said, that's not that hard to do. I think I can do that.
Yeah.
And then I said, okay, look, we need to think about it. We'd like to come back and talk to you about it next week. So we came home and we're like, wow, what do we got to do to make 500 extra dollars?
Yeah.
And that's when that entrepreneurship thing started kicking in. And then our imagination kicked in and our creativity kicked in. Because when you really want something really bad, right, you're like a heat seeking missile. And then next thing you know, we started making extra $500 a month. And I'm like, now we can go buy that BMW. And that's how we bought our first car. And then that happened. We started going to these homes, like these developers would build these like model homes.
Yeah.
And we would go into these model homes like, oh my God, look at these houses. They're so beautiful. Look at how they're beautifully decorated. And so we started taking pictures to get ideas. And I told Arlene, we're going to have one of these. And then we had a definitive date
Yeah.
of when we're going to own one of these houses. I said, by, August 31st, 19 something, we're going to own this house. And guess what happened? We ended up buying the house. So I tell people that you got to go and even know what you want. Most people don't even know what they want.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
And you're so right about, having it exactly. Like you've got to be specific, right? You've got to
Right.
have that date. Like you were saying, when do you need that much money? As soon as possible, as soon as possible, as soon as possible. It could be now, or it could be, years down the road,
That's
right?
right. That's right. You know,
So
and
having those
then
dates.
yeah, and then I tell people, then people are like, okay, I'm gonna do it, John, I'm gonna do it. And then, they go and get their LLCs and their corporations set up, and then they want to go and start seeking some opinions from everybody. So they start calling all their friends, their parents, and like, hey, what do you think?
Right.
I want
That's
to get your opinion, right? And so here's what I tell people, okay? Winners seek counsel, losers seek opinions.
oh, I love that. Yeah.
So what are you doing going and getting everybody's opinions? Because I want to know what they think. And I'm like, well, who cares? And they go, well, what if they start saying stuff about me? Folks, I tell everybody there's only 3 ways that you will avoid people criticizing you and talking about you behind your back. Okay. And the only 3 ways that you can avoid criticism, number 1 is do nothing with your life. 2, say nothing. And number 3, be nothing.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
And I tell people, is that what you guys want your whole life? You want to like do nothing, say nothing, and be nothing? This precious life that you got? I said, what are you worried about what someone's going to think about you?
Right. Right.
Right? So don't worry about it.
Yeah. People are going to have their opinions no matter what, right?
Right. Yeah. No matter what, they're going to be talking about you. Then
Yeah.
guess what? When you start making it big, they're going to be talking about you, how you're just money motivated.
Anyway, right.
Right.
Yeah.
And then if you don't make it, as I told them they weren't going to make it, but they didn't listen to me. They're just so dumb. So
Right.
they're going to talk about you one way or another. So what do you care? Just do it.
Right. Just do it. Exactly. Just do it. Live your life for you. Set those big goals, and become alive again. A lot of people right now are walking around. Our world is so different now, right? And there's
It
so much
really is.
going on, so much negativity. And it's just, being able to actually focus and change your mindset, not put in all the negative things that's coming at you daily from the media or wherever it's coming, just being able to actually tap into positivity. If you're an entrepreneur, that's what it's all about, right? Is being able to tap into the right people that actually is going to help you move forward instead of tapping into the news and listening to, negativity, what's going on in our world. Because in reality, there's isn't a whole lot that we can change out there that's going on in our world, right? We can change ourselves. We can try to help others, as much as we can, but we have to focus on the positive and not the negative.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. This has been such an amazing time spending
Yeah.
with you here.
And then I tell people like, well, what are you doing watching the news every day? I mean, we already know what they're going to talk about.
Right.
Right. Everything, every day, the news talks about how the Republicans hate the Democrats and the Democrats hate the Republicans, okay? And how this country hates that country, okay? And these group of people hate those kinds of people.
Yeah.
Somebody was raped, somebody was molested, somebody was kidnapped, somebody was killed, okay? And another drive-by took place, and so how much of that do you want to feed into your head before you realize that the world has gone crazy because the news doesn't talk about all the wonderful things that people are doing on a daily basis?
Right.
Okay. And because there are amazing people, but we focus on maybe the 5-10%ers of our society, yet the other 90-95% of the people out there are doing really great things to help and contribute to society.
Yes. Yes. So true. I wanted to touch really quick, if we can, on your movie,
Yes.
Think and Grow Rich. So how do we actually get access to the movie?
Well, so it is available on my site at johnshin.com, and they can go in there and download it, or it's like a Vimeo thing. I think it's like $5 or $10 or something like that, and they can watch the movie.
Oh, okay. Awesome. And that's actually written from the book Think and Grow Rich. So Napoleon Hill, we're so grateful to have you on here. Any other advice, or you've gone through so much on here and so much great advice, and we so appreciate everything that you've said. But let's say there's someone out there that's thinking about quitting their job to start entrepreneurship.
Yes.
What would you tell them? What would be the first advice that you would give them?
Well, okay, so the first thing I tell people is if you're going to start a business, number one, okay, and not in any particular order, but the first thing I tell people is whatever your product or service is, that make sure there is a need for your product, right? A need meaning that you're providing a solution for some problem, okay? Because when you find a solution to most people's problems, that's how you're going to get wealthy.
Yeah.
Okay. Why do you think Jeff Bezos skyrocketed, during COVID? Because we couldn't go to the grocery store, but we still needed what? Food. You know what I mean? And so he found a solution. He found a niche. I mean, look at Elon Musk. Everyone's talking about gas and oil and how it's limited. So he came up with a solution. He built an electric car, right? And so, or a battery operated car. So the thing is, that's why I tell people, if you find the solution to a problem, then wonderful. So that's number one. Okay. Second thing is there potential for residual or passive income in your business? Okay. So if why go and work? Like for instance, I don't mean to pick on, let's say, real estate agents, but this first group that came to mind, right? But if you're a real estate agent, you are working so hard every single day, right? You're trying to get a listing, you're trying to find a buyer. But here's the thing. If you do 5 sales today and close this month, what income do you make next month? Right? You got to sell another 1 or 2 or 3, 4 or 5 houses, right? And then after that, what do you got to do next month? Then you got to sell again, and you got to sell again. So it's very transactionally based. So I say to people, how do you feel about where your money's going to come from next month? I mean, that's kind of scary, So I want to be in a business where I can create residual income and some passive income. And there are many, many things that you can do that you can start a business that you can have passive income, right? And residual income. Movie stars have figured that out because every time they make a movie, keep on replaying it, they're getting some residual from that. Okay. Passive income. So I do like real estate, but I don't want to sell it. I want to own it. So, because then if I own a building and I've got a bunch of tenants, then I've got passive income coming in, right? And so that's what I mean to think of a business. And then the third thing about a business is what's your exit strategy look like? Okay. So in other words, if you were to sell your business, find out what the multiples are. So that when you sell it, you get a multiple for your business. Okay. So let's just say you got a restaurant. Well, great. Now on the back end is if you're going to sell it, let's say you're doing a certain amount of income per year. The multiple is let's just say is $100,000. Let's just say as an example is what you net out every year. And a business broker comes on and says today's market is 2x multiple, so that you would be able to sell your business for $200,000. Right. But then there are other businesses that pay 5 times. That means that same $100,000 would give you $500,000 on your exit. There are some industries that pay you a 30 multiple, right? So that means that you would get $3 million when you sell on the same $100,000, right? So do you see what I mean by having multiples, right? So those are the things I tell people to look for a business that does that. And then the next thing is go and seek counsel, right? Not opinions, go seek counsel, as we talked about earlier. So what I tell people to do right now is, when you want to start a business, okay, you want to use your own money. Okay. Or if you don't have your own money, you go to your family and you go to your friends and you go to your parents. And it's not like your parents didn't work hard for that money. They also work for that money. But now you're going to go and take someone else's sweat equity and go and blow it. Right. And so there's something called OPM that most people have not completely embraced yet, Pamela. And the letters OPM is an acronym which stands for other people's money. So how do you get other people's money? Well, the way you find other people's money is this. Before I go there, let's just talk about borrowing money. So now you go to a bank, or let's say you go to your parents and you say, can I get $300,000 because I have a great business idea? And then unfortunately you borrow from your family and friends and cousins and all that, and the business failed. So as soon as it fails, guess what? Now you can't even face your family and friends. You're embarrassed to see them. You know, or some of them don't even want you around. They don't even invite you back.
Right.
Does that make sense, right?
Yes,
So why
absolutely.
not go and start off by getting something called a grant? Grant. So here's the thing, you can go get a loan from the SBA, you can go to Wells Fargo Bank, you can get a loan, you can go to your family and get a loan, but again, it's a loan, which means you got to pay interest, and there's a certain period of time you got to pay it back.
Right.
A grant is basically money that you can get from the government, and the government gives you this money to get your business going.
Yeah, that's great information.
So I tell people, go to grants.gov. I don't know if you've ever heard of grants. It's a website, if you've ever been there. And once you get there, I believe it's the second tab from the left that says learn about grants. And you click that tab, you scroll down a little bit, and then you'll see one that says grant, right? Agencies. And there are, I don't know, probably 24 of them that are giving out money, and they'll give anywhere between $10,000 up to $2 million in free money.
Wow.
But what's great about these agencies, and there's one out there that I can just tell you right now, which is called MBDA, which is called the Minority Business Development Agency. So if you have any kind of Latino blood, Asian, African American, Middle Eastern, Native American, you can actually go to the MBDA, seek a grant, and then while they're giving you a grant, what they'll also do is help you build a website.
Wow.
And you know how much that website costs for them to build it for you?
Probably
Zero.
nothing. Yeah.
Nothing. It's free. Okay, so you can start a basic website from them to get your business going. They'll
Yeah.
help with all the other little things that you need to do to get your business going. Okay, and let's say you apply and you get approved. Now you have government money, taxpayer money that you can use instead of your own or your parents or your siblings to start your business. Now, some people say, well, what happens if I don't qualify?
Yeah.
Okay, does that mean I shouldn't start my business? Absolutely not. Then the next level of opportunity is to go and maybe look at what they call CDFI.
Okay.
CDFI. So what does CDFI stand for? CDFI stands for Community Development Financial Institution.
Okay.
So now what happens is you have these big banks like Wells Fargo, B of A, you know, Chase Bank. Those are your conventional banks. Okay. And you go to them, they give you a loan. Now you got to repay it back at a certain interest rate. But on the other hand, CDFI is basically government giving money to a community bank.
Okay.
And it's a lot easier to qualify for those loans than going through Wells Fargo.
Oh,
And
wow.
then the best part is after maybe 3, 6, 9, 12 months, if your business does well, you can actually apply and ask for a loan forgiveness.
Oh, wow.
So they'll actually take your loan and turn it
Yeah.
into like a grant where you don't even have to pay it back.
Wow. This is great information. Thank you.
So those are the kinds of things. Now, some people said, you know, John, earlier you were talking about having a plan because most people don't plan to fail. They just fail to plan. So like, where do I start with my business plan? Well, if you actually call them up and they have people there that will actually give you templates on how to start a business plan.
Oh, wow. That's really good to know.
Yeah. So then you say, well, then they'll ask you specific questions like I do, which is how much money do you think your business would like to make this year in 2023? You can't say, I don't know. I haven't thought about that.
Yeah.
Okay. Like you got to have some definitive numbers. And so then they reverse engineer what you want. So they go, okay, if you want $500,000, let's reverse engineer it to figure out exactly how many sales you need to do and all that. They really help you design everything. And then as that starts happening, start looking at having some systems in place. You know, you've heard a lot of people say that, 90% of the businesses don't make it in the first 2 years. So why? Well, the reason is when I look at somebody who's got a successful business and one that doesn't, the one that doesn't succeed is because they lack systems in their business.
Yeah.
The word system, SYSTEM, is an acronym. And what it stands for is save yourself some time, energy, and money.
You are
Because if
great with this acronyms. I love it.
because if you've got systems in place, guess what? The system runs your business.
Yeah.
All you got to do is run the systems, but most people don't have systems, and they're like the one-man show. They're doing everything. They're doing the accounting, the bookkeeping, the sales management, the sales implementation. They're doing they're doing everything.
Right.
No wonder they stress out, and then their health begins to deteriorate because they're overwhelmed and
Yeah.
they're stressed out. And
Yeah.
all of a sudden this business is no longer fun, and then they say, nope, I'm going to go back to my job. Okay. So I tell people, stay with it. I want to let everyone know that success doesn't come. Okay. Success does not come from anything that you do occasionally, but it's what you do consistently. Okay. So stay with it. Don't give up. Be relentless, be tenacious, and keep on going.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And when you fall down, pick yourself up and keep on going. You can't stay down. You got to keep on going.
That's
For some
right.
people, yeah. That's one of the things. And that's how you learn, right? Whether it's, something that you went through that maybe was a failure, you learn from that experience, because I think all failures are learning and growing experiences also as we go through. So something in your business, maybe it didn't work, just learn from that. Don't quit. Never quit. I'm a big believer in not quitting, but trying to figure out a way how to make it work, and you
Absolutely.
and you
Yeah.
can make it work and you can win. We're so grateful to have you on here, Sir John. Thank you so much. Any final words you want to share with us? And also, share again your information, how someone would actually get the movie. If you also do coaching. I know as far as coaching, but you do coaching on a much higher level. I know that. If you want to share that information also, please feel free.
Sure. Yeah. Pamela, we want people to win, and so for anybody who wants to win, that needs some guidance, I know that you're there for them. I'm here for them. But listen, we're not going to come and chase after you. If you want it, you need to go chase after your coach and after your mentor. There were two men in my life that really shaped who we are today, who shaped who we become, who've helped shape our financial, situation we're in today. And I went and sought them out. They didn't come to me. They didn't go, hey, you're the chosen one. No. I went and sought them out and said, I'm your guy.
Yeah.
What do I got to do for you to go and coach a guy like me and mentor a guy like me? And they said, well, let's talk about that. And so I tell everybody, go and seek out your coaches and your mentors. And even if you have one coach, you can have multiple coaches. You don't need just one coach. Like I've got multiple coaches. I've got a coach for my faith. I got a pastor, and that's my pastoring coach, right? I have a fitness coach, right? I'm not even where I am when I want to be, financially. Like I'm, don't get me wrong, we're doing very well for ourselves, but I want more. I want to be like, I don't want to be like this, like this is it. I'm in the end zone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I want to feel like I'm on the other side of the field and I still got a long, long way to go to get to the end zone,
Yeah.
And so I tell everyone to reach out, whether it's me or you or anybody else. But if they want to get a hold of me, they can reach me on my mobile, on my cell phone. Okay. Now, no one can ever say, I didn't know how to get a hold of you. Well, here's my cell number. It's 818 area code 652 5778. Okay. I'm also on social media, on Instagram, Facebook. And I just tell everyone, look, every one of you guys within the sound of my voice right now, you are wired for success. Okay. But you're programmed to fail. And that programming to fail comes from your mindset. And, I hear people say, oh, well, I'm not a very good salesperson, all that kind of stuff. And I was like, actually, you are a pretty good salesperson, right? Because you actually closed yourself. You closed yourself in believing your own BS. Okay. And the letter BS basically stands for your belief system.
Oh,
So So you've actually closed yourself on your own BS. So you're a pretty good salesperson. So you can't tell me you're not good in sales, because you're actually pretty good, because you sold yourself.
Yeah.
Now, guess what? You have to resell yourself that you are a great salesperson. You are supposed to be an entrepreneur. You are supposed to be successful in all those 5 F's, and that all it takes for you is to just do one thing, is to decide. We tell people, make a decision. Just make a decision. And the word decision comes from what word? It comes from the word decide.
Yeah.
And where does the word decide comes from? It comes from 2 words. The first word is de, which comes from the Latin root word of do. And then the word side, cide, comes from the word pesticide, to kill, right? Or to die. It means, that's why it comes from pesticide, homicide, suicide. So when you look at the word decide, it means do or die. So, right, and or do or kill. And well, what do you want to kill? What you want to kill are all your beliefs, those limiting beliefs. You want to kill all those excuses you've been making, okay? And understand that you are an absolute masterpiece, because you're a piece of the master, and
Yes.
nothing can stop you in 2023.
Yes. I love that. You are a piece of a master. Yes. And decide to win. Decide to win. It's in you. You have what it takes in you to win. Yes.
That's right.
Make that decision. Stay the course. And consistency is the key. Is to keep doing what you're doing over and over until the uncomfortable becomes comfortable. You guys.
That's right.
Doing it. Yeah. John. Sir John, again, we're so grateful to have you. And
well, thanks for having me, Pamela. I enjoyed it very much.
oh, thank you. Thank you so much. You're a wealth of knowledge and information and success. And I love all the acronyms that you laid out for us. So again, everyone, you've got his information. He gave us some great information on also, getting those, getting help with grants if you're thinking about, or if you are already an entrepreneur and you're looking for, help. So much information on here. We're so grateful again. We will see you guys soon. Everyone, stay safe, be blessed, and we will talk to you soon. Bye-bye. Win-win.